When will you be truly satisfied, truly happy? Will it be when you've achieved your financial goals, your career goals? Will it be when you've married the girl of your dreams, bought your dream house, or had the 2 children that you've always wanted? Hello, I'm Sandhya and welcome to Dynamic Living. We are looking today about the conditions that we need for happiness. If we were to think about happiness like any other emotion, then it is a construct. So a good analogy would be of us building a tent or pitching a tent. What are the conditions that we need for this? Obviously, we need a good quality tent to start with. We need a surface on which to pitch it. And obviously, we're going to look for, I hope that we're going to look for the most steady and stable and firm surface that we can find. And then we're going to decide how many pegs we need. Do we need 3 pegs for our happiness? 4, 5, 8, 17? I don't know. And once we've pitched this tent, are we now going to be safe in it forever? Or are we going to start to wonder if winds are going to blow it, if lightning is going to strike it, or if someone else is going to come and pitch a tent that's much bigger and better than ours? Are we going to now regret the tents that we didn't buy? So you can see that with this analogy, that conditional happiness, the construct of happiness or success, is dependent on multiple factors and cannot possibly be permanent. But what if I were to tell you that unlike any other emotional construct that neuroscience now tells us our emotions are, happiness or contentment is the one emotion that could perhaps be our essential nature, that in fact is what remains once we are free of all of our other constructs, free of all of our cravings? Think about a bike that you've always wanted. You've been thinking about it, dreaming about it, working for it, and inching closer and closer to your goal. In the moment that you got that bike, what do you feel? Absolute contentment, if I'm not mistaken. If you look deeply, you'll see that in that moment, you wanted for nothing. So happiness lay not in you actually getting that bike, but in you not wanting anything in that moment. Because in another few minutes, weeks or months maybe, that same bike that was that you believed was going to be the source of your happiness is now going to become the source of either your regret, your anger, your fear. Is somebody going to scratch it? Is someone going to steal it? Does somebody have a better bike than mine? Or this bike is not as good as I imagined it would be? So the feeling lay not in the bike itself, but in your response to it. Now, as highly functioning individuals and well-read adults, we kind of do know that happiness isn't in something external to us, but yet we keep chasing it externally. And why do we do that? 5 reasons primarily. The first is that we simply lack the awareness. Well, that's actually very few of us, and those sleeping dogs are best left to lay. This is really for us to see the lack of awareness within ourselves. Number 2, this is just our conditioning. It's our habit. It's our socialization. We've learned this from children and from childhood, and we just continue to do this. Number 3, everybody else is doing it, so we feel like if we were to take a completely different path, we're not so sure if that's really, safety always lies in numbers, you see. Number 4, everything in media, marketing, in public domain seems to be suggesting otherwise, right? Related to number 3, really. But that if we somehow don't get this, we will not be happy. These are the 5 conditions that you need for happiness. This is how you define success. Number 5, even if we were to consider all the 4 points that came before this, we are aware that this sort of happiness takes work, and it takes time, and it takes effort. And we're finding so much temporary happiness at the end of our fingertips. Really, everything is just a click away. There's instant gratification, and there in fact seems to be so much joy in the external world. What is it going to take for us to actually do this work inside of us? Since I'm all full of analogies today, what if we were to think of another one? Imagine that we had this big gaping hole within us. It's like a cannonball has just gone clear through us, and what we now have is this big black hole of longing, of craving, of wants that we feel will make us happy. And so we keep feeding this great black hole with food, with material objects, with relationships that we believe will bring us happiness and joy and pleasure. Or the more intellectual amongst us will seek to do that with more and more degrees, with more and more acclaim, or we may seek to fill it with spiritual pursuit. I know that this path will bring me to absolute happiness, and so I'm going to follow this guru. I'm going to take on this particular spiritual path because I know it will lead me to happiness. But in all of this, we are simply throwing things into this big black hole. It's simply going to get sucked in and may get thrown out into a wormhole of some other existence that we don't know about. It certainly doesn't seem to ever get filled up. It is not the thing that we were craving in the first place. All that we need is to give some loving kindness to this gaping hole, to this wound that we have within ourselves. Allow it to heal, allow it to soften, allow it to close, and then we can realize that in fact we are completely whole, and that wholeness is the source of our happiness. Now, if this imagery is making sense to you at all, I will invite you to contemplate on this, meditate on this, and see if this is bringing you happiness in small degrees. And if you just stick with it, your happiness is going to go up exponentially. It may not be what the advertisement on Google is telling you is going to be the source of your happiness, but I'm willing to wager everything that I have materialistically that will give you a much greater degree of happiness. Thank you for watching.